Hello and welcome to the part two of the episode on independent space journalism and making way for communicators in this Indian space industry. So I believe we were discussing on dismantling some of the justification for why companies are not paying to the independent creators and what they should do to basically reach the level where they can possibly balance out the both monetization as well as the taking advantage of the kind of I would say benefit they receive out of the marketing. I think we left over there and we'll be continuing now
Yeah,
the further part of the conversation.
yeah,
So Ayushee, I think we have discussed all the aspects of journalism as well as the marketing and the communication aspects of the industry, like what are the prime major gaps and what can be potentially done in this segment. So from your perspective, because you have this many years of so many years of experience in aerospace and some recent experience in the space industry as well. So from your perspective on ground and from virtual events as well, what are some of the shifts that you observed over the past 3 to 4 years in the industry, and what are some shifts that you anticipate going ahead in respect to uh, the way the industry is going, both technologically as well as in the terms of journalism, marketing as well.
right,
So
right,
it's up to you how would like to basically answer this question.
right. Um, and I would love for you also to come in and add
Absolutely.
wherever
Happy.
you
Yes,
also
yes,
have, because I think I
yes,
just love chatting and having these conversations than
yes, yes.
just answers and make it
Yeah,
monotonous.
yeah.
But from what I have observed, like I said, one thing is that when I started in the industry 4 years back, it was still a very so I'll start talking. There are multiple aspects to it. One aspect I would talk about the events, because when I started, events have been my gateway. So I will talk about them, and I think they are a great platform for anybody who wants to access people in the industry, talk to them, who wants to understand, because these discussions also sometimes, at least if you're somebody who's not from the industry, you go to these events and some of these discussions and workshops and panel discussions can be helpful for you, because if you're not from the industry, they might not be as repetitive for you as it might be for somebody like us who are already there and who've heard those
Yes,
things. So they are good learning platforms, good networking opportunities. But I think what I've seen in terms of events is, one, that group when I got to these first editions was still very limited. It was a very small set of people who
yes,
could just fit into one room or one conference hall, and that's it, and that would be the people there in the industry. But that group has definitely expanded, because we have more companies, we have so many more startups who are now part of the ecosystem. We also have, earlier maybe it was just ISRO as the space agency, but that is another thing that has changed with in space, with New Space India Limited, all of these things coming into NSIL and in space coming into the picture. In space specifically has been working a lot on more of these events, creating more of promotional things, interacting more with the stakeholders. So the events have changed in terms of the number of people that were part of it. They have expanded in terms of stakeholders who were coming and talking. There has been shift in the way that, for example, when the first defense space symposium happened, that was sort of one of those few times and rare times when the entire where a lot of people from the defense sector, from the defense forces, especially the air force, were present there during the event along with the space startups, and they had an access to them and they could directly speak to them. So that gap, I think, was filling, because especially when it comes to defense requirements, those can be tricky, and those are not very very clear all the times, even with when we have the def space challenges and all. And sometimes companies would struggle a little bit to clearly understand that what exactly is the requirement here, and maybe my tech can come in, but they were not able to reach out to the forces because they would be guarded. But I think that shift came in, where those silos were sort of broken and more interaction started to happen. more policy makers, more lawyers also became parts of those discussions, and we had the space policy come in. More discussion started to happen. So I think I saw the events expanding, which in a way showcased that the industry is also expanding and that accessibility was there. However, I think it has also now reached a point where, like I was talking earlier, we need to start really being a little mindful of, do we really need all of these events? Are we now serving some purpose with them or not? And start filtering and make sure that the quality of these events as those platforms to initiate the right kind of discussions, to be those accessibility generators where people are coming and having interactions, that is not diluted. And that is something I think we need to ensure, that we are past the stage of creating that initial awareness and initial link between stakeholders. I think that is done now. We are beyond that. Now, how do we take the discussions further so that our policy can also evolve? It's a very basic document right now. It needs a lot more additions. So, how do we evolve that is, I think, something I would want to start happening, that maybe we don't have so many number of events, but more qualitative ones, fewer ones, the ones that are more very particular and specific to the kind of discussion that we need and what objective are we looking at out of it. So I think events is something where I've seen that shift happening. I've also seen that during this time, not only the number of companies have increased, but a lot of these companies, their teams have expanded. So that is also a sign of that the industry is growing, the startups are growing, investment is coming in. Investments have definitely increased in the last couple of years as to where we were in 2019, 2020 to where we are now. But again, going forward, I think it's very important that some of these startups who have received good investment, they succeed and their technology gets proven and established, because that will impact the entire ecosystem coming in the background, and the entire queue of startups that are coming in will depend a lot on how these particular startups perform. Then, of course, there has also been a change in terms of, because private sector reforms came in. For example, even in launch, we would just have ISRO. We still have only ISRO with PSLV, and PSLV has done a great job so far. But we are now, it was opened up that the industry will come in and it will be done through the industry. But we are still to see that happen. So I think that was one of the bigger changes, a bigger steps that came in, but it needs to be implemented. And I think we need to fasten that process a little bit and not delay it too much, because otherwise the frequency at which SpaceX launches missions, I am not saying that right away we have to match that. But the whole point of PSLV coming through the industries is that the frequency increases so that more launches happen. More of our startups who have their satellites, or more of the countries who want to launch satellites through us, get accommodated and are launched. So I think that is something that needs to really pace up. Policy needs to be worked at a little bit more so that it becomes a bill. It is still a very basic document. There are a lot of things we still need to. It's great we finally had the policy, and I am so glad that I was part of somehow that huge thing when it was coming, and I could see that the policy finally came through. But next step is what? Like, we have enjoyed, we have celebrated that we have a space policy, great, but we don't need to stop there. There has to be next steps to that. And hopefully those, I think, because now we have so many stakeholders, things need to pace up a little bit. Marketing and communication, in terms of that also, I have seen a little bit of shift in terms of companies, at least the startups who have been there for years now, they are now open to these kind of discussions, and they are now looking at having people or agencies who can help them with marketing and communication. So that, I don't think, is something that they were looking at 4 years back, but now they are, and they want to understand. Not all of them maybe, but some of them do want to understand and are open to those discussions. like, for me personally, from having no conversation to reaching a point where I can discuss with couple of them that if in case you're not looking to have somebody full time, I've had the opportunities of having discussions with multiple of them and maybe work on a consultancy sort of a basis, see what their requirements are and accordingly help them. So how can collaboratively different stakeholders come together and work with the companies is also something that is beginning to shift now. Media definitely, like I said, that couple of years back, 4 years back, there was very limited coverage. After Chandrayaan 3, I think a lot changed, because in India, at least, everybody was very excited with Chandrayaan 3. And I do think we did a good job, a decent job with the campaign of Chandrayaan 3 reaching out to so many people. It was like how our matches have stadiums full when we have an India Pakistan match happening or an IPL match happening. Now, during Chandrayaan 3, there were offices and railway platforms and everywhere people watching the landing. So I think it was a huge feat to create that awareness. But I think what happens is that hype gets created and then we lose it. What's more important is Chandrayaan 3 happened great, but what's also happening after that? And the media, again, there, a lot of media is now covering space. They are definitely way more interested in space now than they were 3 years back. But the narrative, I am still not convinced with it, because we still end up adding a lot of drama to it sometimes, either overselling something, or if something has gone wrong, just completely like putting it down the drain. So that balanced narrative is still missing. And I am like, whether it's anything, even right now with the Sunita Williams and coming back, and I am very inspired by her, of course, and I'm so excited she's back and things went okay with her. But I've interacted with people who have trained her and who've been with her. So that
Yeah.
constant thing of creating, I mean, they can create a Bollywood movie out of it, I'm so sure, of having like what
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
happened. And
Absolutely.
but it's like, of course, it was not planned. She went there for 2 weeks, it got extended, and there were technical issues here that we need to address. There were political issues as well, of course, that came into the picture in, taking those decisions sometimes. But I don't think, like, the whole narrative that was created, like, oh my god, she's stuck there, will she come back? I mean, people around me last year, everywhere I went to a social gathering, as soon as people get to know you are in the space industry, oh, Sunita Williams is still up in space, no, will she come back, will she be okay? But I think for us, people who are in the industry, that was kind of like, it happens, these kind of things tend to happen in the space. You are going
Yes.
out there, not everything is predicted, these things happen. And it will
Yes.
be challenging because limited space in ISS, limited resources, now you have more people than planned. But those are the kind of things that happen, and then you work your way around it. She's not like stuck or lost, and we will be able to get her back. It needs a bit of management, and we could. So sometimes I get, I mean, it's good that space is getting that kind of a coverage now, and we are talking about the industry and everybody is aware, and I'm very happy that people now know about the space industry more than they
Yes.
knew a couple of years back. But sometimes I'm like, we're not sending out the right narrative.
Yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. I believe the narrative difference is there, still there, and I think this is also happening because of the people who are responsible on the front foot of the industry as well. They have to be responsible enough to let know what priorities should be hyped up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not up to anyone else. I
true.
think I have never seen an outreach program where possibly ISRO has produced a documentary or has collaborated with some of the well-known film production house and created a narrative where, telling how space technology is useful in day-to-day life. Like every day everyone is using the space technology. I have never seen that coming out,
Yeah, yeah,
and I think this is where we are lacking. And
yeah.
the reason why you see so much authenticity when it comes to the military or the space aspect in Hollywood sometimes is because they have a system in place where the film studios can reach out
Right,
legally in
right.
a there is proper channel where they can
Channel,
request
yeah.
that from a space agency or from a government institute, the person comes as a consultant, stays on the film studio set, consults them, tells them, okay, this is not the way. I still remember, I think there was a film called Mission Mangal, Mangalyaan, yeah, so Mission Mangal, I think, I don't remember
Yeah,
exact
yeah,
name.
yeah. Yeah.
And the first
Mission
teaser
Mangal.
poster that came out, they had put up, instead of PSL, it was put up a Soyuz rocket. And it was so sad to see. I mean, I do
Yeah.
not blame, of course, you can blame the film production houses for not researching it very well. But I would also say that, it's not only about the film studios doing the research very well. They don't have the proper channels to reach out to ISRO people.
Reach out.
A
Exactly,
lot of times,
exactly.
it's only when there is a film promotion they are, able to reach out and, speak with the film personalities.
Yeah.
But there has to be a proper channel through which the government institutes are reachable to the
Yeah.
documentary filmmakers or the communicators who are trying to, build something in the general industrial domain. I think those channels
Yeah.
are missing a lot in the Indian space, and
Yeah.
I think this is the right moment where, the startups are
Exactly.
emerging. If you don't grab it in next 2 3 years, I think it's going to be dead.
True, true, true. And
Like,
that
people
is
are not going
something,
to revive it again.
and that is a conversation that I have in my capacity also had with people at ISRO as well. That,
Yes.
the thing is that here in India, we also have a lot of communicators who are really covering and creating content around space,
Yes.
and they are doing it surely out of their passion. So you have people who do understand the subject and who are there available. All you need to do is be a little bit more accessible and create that channel for them so that they can reach out to you. it
Absolutely.
will not it will not harm, and no confidential thing will just go out there like that. But that's what I always tell, that what NASA has done work wise is great, but they've also told the story really well, and they've made sure that they've
Yes.
told those stories about missions, about people, and that leaves an impact in a manner that, no, I mean, generations now, not just in US but everywhere, are inspired by NASA and they want to be at NASA.
Yes.
It's a dream for so many people. That's not just because they sent missions up there, but that's also because how they told their story and that narrative. And that's what I say, that that's what storytelling and creating the right narrative does. Because if you just ride the hype wave and create that hype around it, it will fade away. But that consistent long term storytelling in a balanced approach is really
Yes.
important, because that creates difference, not just in terms of what happens, how people react, and how many likes and views you get now, but in the long term, in a way, how people start looking at the industry, and that will create a difference in the kind of skilled workforce that will come in as well,
Yes.
because of what you will feed them now. So yeah, I think that is the gap that is there, and it needs to be filled in, especially like you said, now we have so many of the startups coming in, and it's the right time. That I
Yes.
think that little mile shift is coming, but it's still a long way, and we still need to balance that. And
Yeah,
that's where
absolutely. It's a long way, and I think
I
it's on
feel,
the yeah, it's on the government side. I do not
yeah,
blame the filmmakers or as such so much, because they also don't have a reference points to touch upon,
reference points,
except
and
except the
yeah,
people who are retired from ISRO. They are the only reference points that these people have to easily reach out to. Otherwise, I don't think so. I have been able to. I mean, I have been reaching out, and I have been bringing on board some of the finest people who have worked in both intelligence, defense, and space industry from the United States. Unfortunately, being an Indian citizen, it is extremely tough to even speak or approach the people inside the government. It's a real shame,
it
actually,
is.
that as an Indian citizen, I'm unable to do that. But that's what it is. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
you can't really
I
help it.
think, yeah, so I think they've been very, very closed that way, but that needs to change, and very, very slightly. I mean, I know it's like a grain in the sand, so right now it doesn't count
Yeah, yeah.
that much, but that slight shift, very slightly, is coming. And I don't know if that is a difference, because they do maybe still have that skepticism. So I have still been able to reach out to them, and I wouldn't say that the response has not been so bad, but yeah, it's been more on a personal level that I've been able to reach out to them, and I'm
Yeah, yeah.
thankful for that, and that they are approachable, accessible, and I can access them for the information. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
if I have to look at it from a professional manner or a larger impact manner, then yes, there are still those hesitations that they have in, wanting to
Yes.
come out and speak. But I still think that there's a way around here that we can definitely manage. We don't have to be so closed as well, and
Yes.
we can definitely do it without risking our information. So yeah, that channel, I think they need to be open about having more of these conversations. And that is where I really
Absolutely. Yeah.
think that more than the established mainstream media, independent creators and journalists can really help better there, because
Yes.
they're not bound to doing stories in a way that a certain publishing house might want to do. So they are more open, and they'll research more. Just allow those discussions, let those discussions happen, create
Yes.
space for those discussions. And I think slightly that did change. And at least with the Somnath sir, I did feel that he was very accessible as an ISRO chairman, which is very surprising, because mostly we as journalists or creators could never reach out to an ISRO chairman so much. So I think that
Yeah.
did slightly change, but yeah, we still have to do that a lot. And with ISRO, I think we
Yes.
really need to. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on this fact. I think the next question that we are stepping into, I would say it kind of little bit aligns with the kind of discussion that we are having at the moment, but it also involves a private company. So, what steps can be taken for the private companies and the government agencies to ensure that they start fostering a sustainable media ecosystem? I mean, we just spoke about it briefly,
Yeah.
I believe. But yeah, you can briefly explain maybe just what all other steps other than creating the marketing channels.
Yeah.
Maybe in terms of education also there are some channels I believe which are
Yeah.
lacking. Uh, I mean, I always see people. There are a lot of, by the way, educational firms in the space industry, but I hardly see anyone teaching about the economics of the space industry. I hardly see anyone teaching people saying that satellite broadcasting or satellite communication, where the most amount of revenues are, is the actual commercial aspect of the space industry,
Yeah.
not where you
Yeah.
send probes to Mars. That commercialization has some time to take. Definitely, it is going to be commercialized. The moon missions and everything will be, but
Yeah.
for now, for the moment, currently at this time, at this in this day and age, is the communication, earth observation, navigation. These are the commercial pillars of the industry. I don't really see anyone teaching the economics of the space industry.
Yeah.
uh,
That's again
so
something I'm glad you brought it up, because so that's been a little difference with the. Okay, so there are multiple aspects here from what you talked about.
absolutely, yeah.
um uh, so
Yeah.
see, when it comes to, I'll try to go
Yeah.
from the beginning of the question, where you talked about the kind of how we can foster it more.
Yes.
So one, we already touched upon the aspect of creating those channels. And I think what is important is that the good thing is we don't need to create those channels from the scratch right now. We have people who are already doing it, and we have enough information and resources available. We just need to initiate that dialogue and allow some sort of an access. And that little platform needs to be created that will improve a lot of the storytelling and information that we send out there. Another thing is, I think when it comes to even the private companies, like I was mentioning earlier, we
Yeah.
need to just get a little open to discussions again. And by discussions, I'm not trying to say have forums about it. Let's talk about why communication is important. No. Just if I'm an independent communicator or a journalist and I'm coming to you and we are having this discussion, you have XYZ requirements, and you also have, say, ABC amount of money or investment that you can put into it. I understand. I am not here to argue with you that, oh my God, why are you only putting ABC amount for a communicator and not giving that much? I'm not saying that.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, let's have a discussion as to what are the objectives you have. Okay, this is the amount of money you have. This is what your requirements are. Let me tell you how I can help you there. At least be open to those kind of discussions, and then don't be very rigid as to, okay, ma'am, I will only give this much of money, but I will also want you to be here entirely and do it in a certain way. What I am trying to say is that we can collaborate here. The space agencies, the private sectors, the independent creators, we can all collaborate. So have that platform where you be open about what you have to offer and what you are looking for, and then allow me to create a collaborative solution there, but then be a little open to that kind of solution as well, and not very rigid, that where you can not put in a lot of investment as well, but you also want things in your way. No, let's try to create a workaround. Another
Yes.
thing I think, so yeah, that is one thing that I was saying, that that kind of having that kind of an open dialogue, be open to offering the fair compensation that's needed, understand that there's more that goes behind one post also. It might be a minute's video, but there's a lot of research and editing that goes behind that. And then let's just create those structured collaborations, whether in terms of events, the content, the communication, the relations building, business development, all of this can come under one umbrella, and we can try to create some structured collaborations there. So I think this is what I would say, that being a little open to those discussions and trying to find way around is what I would say is required to foster that kind of an environment. And coming to the education part as well, I think what is also important is that we have a lot of researchers in India, we have a lot of academicians, but academically also there's a gap right now that we have in terms of the offerings for the space industry. So that needs to be streamlined. InSpace has now started to offer some sort of courses, short term courses, which allow that kind of exposure, which is great. But again, more needs to be done, and right now is not the time where we can say that we'll do it at our leisure. We have to do it now. That's where we
Yes.
are. We have to do it because we have everything available. It's just a little bit of coordination towards that. And in my workshops also, when I am talking to students, that's the difference why I focus on space economy and careers in aerospace, because I know we have a number of startups, space education startups, who are talking to students, about the astronomical aspects, about creating satellites, building rockets. All of that is important. But what I try to talk to them is that, okay, you have rockets, you have satellites, everything is there, you have the space science aspect of it, which is great. But what can you do with all of this? And how is the industry growing beyond ISRO? How is the industry impacting the economy of the country? What are the other sectors that are related to space? It is a multidisciplinary industry. How is that? What is it around you that you think requires satellite? And so how is space application coming into the picture? Or what is something around you that has a problem which you think can be solved because of maybe internet and satellite? So again, space industry comes into the picture there. So I try to have
Yes.
that, because students need to start also understanding the space economy
Yes.
aspect of it, which I think is lacking right now. So yeah, all of this, I think, with InSpace, with ISRO, with the private startups, with independent creators, we have a great set of resources available right now, and things are in place. We just need to have a more open dialogue and create a structured plan and move ahead with it right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on this. Like the creation of a structured plan, I think hoping the things change with time if we
Yeah,
do it and manage things in that way with the cooperation of both, of course, the public and the
yeah,
private
yeah.
entities. I believe we are reaching the final part of the
Yes.
complete podcast now, episode of this. So yeah, I mean, this question is completely up to you. It's the way you would like to answer, basically. And yeah, of course, you can also ask me as well in between, like if you'd like to. So from your perspective, as you are also a content creator, a journalist, and a marketer and a communicator as well, like you also wear many hats, just the way a lot of space communicators do in the space industry. So, what message do you have for content creators or journalists, marketers, or communicators who are passionate about the space industry but
Hmm.
feel very undervalued or pressure to work for free? How can they push back effectively? And I would specifically stress this for the Indian region. When I say Indian region, it complete covers like all the states of India as well, and some parts also of the Indian subcontinent as well, because I believe Asia in general is very used to this kind of mentality If you are getting anything for free, take it. If you have to pay something for, even if it's $1, you try to skip it. And that is where a lot of people struggle. And I really admire the journalists, communicators, marketers who are surviving in the Indian market. It's extremely tough to survive as an independent in these markets, because everyone is like a, pardon my word, but every company or the government institute is looking like a vulture to them. That okay, let's exploit them wherever they see there's a journalist or a communicator and a marketer. Let's exploit them. That's the only image that they have. So from your perspective, what is the message that you would like to give to them?
Um, yeah, so see, it's very tricky for sure as an independent journalist to sustain
Yes.
yourself, especially if you're focusing just on the space industry. Um, I'm a little bit of an optimist, and so I really think that things are changing, and I have personally experienced that. Again, the percentage of it is still small, but I have personally seen that shift coming in people where they are open to having these discussions, interactions, and or also opening up opportunities for people to work with them, people like communicators, journalists, to work with them and understand their requirements and try to fulfill that. I think it will be it will take a couple more years for us to have a situation where people are more understanding towards it and they're more open to paying people for doing marketing, storytelling better, especially if they are independent people and not working with them full time. And I really hope that thing changes and that slight shift is coming, but we still have a long way to go. But for people who are independently working, if you're working just in the space sector, I'll be honest, to sustain, it's difficult. If you're relying just on the space sector right now, it's difficult to sustain. You'll have to find more channels as well. And so it gets tricky, it gets intense, you have to do a lot of work, but hopefully things will get better eventually. But right now my suggestion would be that you'll have to upskill yourself, um, see what you can bring to the table alongside your journalism, your marketing. How do you have an extra
Yes.
understanding of the industry, of the subject? If you have a better understanding of the subject, then people will be able to trust you better, because I think right now the industry is also at such a nascent stage that just overall they are still opening up and warming up to the whole idea of marketing and how marketing can help business. So once the industry matures, they'll be at a better position to invest in all of this. But they also want to. I wouldn't say that there's absolutely no wish, and especially from the younger generation, the startups, I think that shift
Ye-
is there. People do understand they don't want to just have you on board, utilize you for your skills and not compensate you for that. So that shift is there, but yes, we'll have to work a little bit harder to make them understand why that. And for that, instead of just arguing your case, you have to present that this is how you can make a difference there to their company with your brand and their brand coming together. And for that, also upskilling yourself, creating your brand, and just really persevere. If you're really, really passionate about space, that is what will take you ahead. And that is, I think, something both Omkar, you and me have also discussed, that we are here
yeah,
because we had some sort of a passion for this subject, and so
absolutely.
we are pushing ourselves. But if you don't have that, then it gets even more difficult, because right now, like I said, the industry is maturing, the ecosystem is still growing and still settling, still establishing. So things still have gaps, and sustaining independently can be
Yes.
challenging. You have to find those right opportunities, hit those right spots, and that takes time, that takes trust of people, that takes relationship building. So you
Ye-
need to be patient about all of that. You reach there, but it takes time, and it will take even a little bit more time. It's getting better,
yes.
but it will take time. So upskill yourself,
Absolutely.
make sure you really are passionate about it, but
Yes.
also just keep yourself also multidisciplinary with more options on your table to work alongside in terms of sustaining.
Absolutely. I'd like to add one interesting point over here, because yesterday only with one of my associate we were discussing this. I believe there are only two industries in the world where the success rate is absolutely low. And if you are able to get the monetary benefit, either you'll get it in loads, or you might get it, on an average, you can survive definitely. But either you can get absolutely kicked out from those industries, or you can be able to survive. Or if you get
Survive.
anything, you
Yeah.
might, at a bigger level. There are only two industries. One is film industry, which has a success rate of 1 to 1.5%, according to the kind of statistic that I have, read. Absolutely lowest success rate. After that, if there is something, then that is the space industry. That's what I believe in general, because the way these two industries work are on absolute madness. You need to be absolute mad.
Mm.
Like, I don't get it when I try to tell it to the people, even to some of my friends who are outside of the space industry. They do not get this fact that, why are you still working in this industry when you can get possibly paid almost maybe 10x the amount of what I'm getting
Yeah.
paid right now. But it's not about that. An actor can make a lot of money by becoming an influencer, but there is a difference between an actor and an influencer.
Influencer. Yeah.
You can't put both of them in the same bucket. Of course, an influencer later transitions into an actor,
Into.
and they don't come back,
Hmm. Hmm.
to that level again. But you will never see the reverse thing happening. It happens only when people are not getting the work in the
Getting the
industry.
work. Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is, like, being passionate, being mad absolutely is the only thing. And
Only
this
thing.
doesn't come with this fact. I would like to mention this thing. A lot of people in and around me who are from the outside of the space industry always try to tell, you always have to play safe.
Yeah.
I said, like, no, there are only two industries where you can't bring the word safe. That is film industry and the space industry. Either you put in everything, or you do not step
Do
at
not.
all, because it requires a sheer will to
Yeah.
just even survive in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
industry is not a, kind of a consumer market where you possibly start manufacturing something, you have a big consumer base today, you have profit, tomorrow you have loss. Here, either you will be in the industry or you will be kicked out.
Kicked out.
There are
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
two ways, and you have to be passionate madly about this industry.
Yes.
So this is a very, I mean, for the people who are from the outside of the industry, I tried to bring in an
Yeah.
example of this film industry, because I believe these two industries have a lot in common, apart from being satellite communication and broadcasting overlapping with the entertainment
Overlapping.
industry
Yeah. Yeah.
in the actual business sense.
Yeah.
These are the two similarities between these
Yeah.
industries.
And they're both very fascinating and they look very
Absolutely, it's
fascinating from the
glamorous. Yeah,
outside.
yeah.
They're glamorous. But
Yes,
that's
yes,
the thing, like I also said, that while I encourage people and I'm very happy for people coming and being a part of it, but you
yes,
really have to be passionate. Like for me itself, I'm very glad, I'm very fortunate and grateful that I found my way into the industry, but I'm still on my way. And I
yes,
could, like, I'm still optimistic about it because I have fortunately have the right kind of people I could
yes.
meet, network and find those opportunities. But there are
Absolutely.
gaps and those opportunities are far and few still and they're rising. But unless you're passionate about it, it's difficult to keep knocking at those doors, going there, investing your own money to hope that it'll be an ROI later
Yes,
on and you'll network and you'll find those things. So you have to be really passionate about it.
yes,
That's
yes.
for sure to sustain.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
I hope
hopefully
people
things
take
will
away.
change.
Yes, yes. I really hope people take away good things out of this
Yeah.
episodes. Primarily, the focus on the economics of the space industry. I believe
Yes.
that is something everyone needs to take their hands on.
And that
And
is
when
again
you
where, yeah.
yeah, when you make people realize that, okay, the amount of sales effort that you have put in the space industry, you might earn 20x more in the other industry in the same
Oh
efforts.
yeah.
That's where their mind is blown away. Absolutely.
The amount
And
of times I've been told about, Array, corporate communications, why don't you take up that? And
yeah,
aviation
yeah,
industry, this industry, that much.
yeah,
I mean, it's, yeah, the amount of money that same with the same skills you can make in another industry is very different. But
yes.
again, you have to really have the passion, you have to stay
Passion to
patient,
be
and
in
you
the
have to
industry.
keep
Yes,
learning.
yes. Absolutely,
See,
yeah.
because I know I'm very passionate about this subject, that is what has kept me going till now, to still try to discover, to still try to explore. And I love
Yes.
reading about it, learning about it, researching,
Yeah, yeah.
interacting, but you have to have that. Otherwise it
Absolutely,
can
yeah.
be challenging. Yeah.
I think learning, networking, being consistent, and having the resilience to continue.
Yes,
Those are the
yes.
only thing, because there are loads of rejections that you're going to receive. No matter how much I have seen people who have been in the industry for 15, 20 years, and they're still struggling.
Yeah.
It's basically like, I'd like to give an example. I don't know whether everyone will know this director. So there is a director called as Darren Aronofsky, who made the movies like Black Swan, and recently he also produced one space documentary as well for a special kind of, I think, screen. If you see his filmography, one of his film Whale, which got an Oscar nominations as well,
Hmm.
lot of his previous films also got Oscar nomination. That man still struggles to get the producers in the Hollywood. It's basically like that in the space industry. You
Yeah.
have in the industry, you have done some excellent work, but you'll still struggle.
Yeah.
So I think
So that's
it's,
why,
yeah,
yeah. But let's, like, I'm hopeful that as
yeah,
the industry is growing
yeah,
globally,
yeah,
we will
absolutely.
see
What
some
I'm trying to
shifts.
say, yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely,
but
yes,
they need
yes,
to be aware of it, that's for sure. Like,
yeah, 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 absolutely,
as glamorous as it may look, there are
yes,
exciting parts to it, but there are these realities as well. So when you
absolutely,
enter
yeah,
it,
yeah.
you need to enter with, you know knowing both
Absolutely.
sides of
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
things.
Yes, yes, yes. That is very true. Now the thing is, like, even though these things are there, you still need to continue. Like Darren Aronofsky didn't left filmmaking and went somewhere else to make money. It's his
Yeah.
passion, and I think only a passionate person can understand that passion.
Yes, yes.
So I believe if you're really working in the space industry, you might need to isolate yourself from the outside world, because otherwise a lot of negativity can affect you and you might get kicked out of the industry.
Yeah, but
Because I think not everyone is able to understand you as a passionate person. It's always like that. I mean,
it's
Elon
yeah.
Musk, if he told, actually that had happened, that scene, when he said that, privatization commercial that will do, and I think Buzz Aldrin said that, this is not possible, this is absolutely madness, this is not possible. And Elon Musk cried in one of the interviews saying that, we when we were children, we used to see these people and get inspired, and they're saying that, we won't be successful, and today the scene is different
Yeah,
because the passion was there. that's
passion
that's
was there.
that's
Yeah,
that is something that was driving up, the things. So
true.
yeah, overall, great conversation with you, Ayushi. Lot of
Yes.
exciting stuff, and I hope we continue to produce more episodes on different topics. I think the next episode I would love to speak with you is the economics of the space industry.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think we
let's save
should
it for another day.
definitely, yes, for another day, we'll talk more about the economics, the policies, and how things are changing. But
Yes, yes,
irrespective, let's keep continue telling the stories that need to be told, and hopefully, we'll find better
yes,
channels
yes,
to be able to do that.
absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much, and have a
All
good
right,
day.
Omkar.
Ad
Thank you
Astra.
so much for this. Yes, Ad
Yes.
Astra. Take care. Bye.